Hey there, this is pretty amazing to see all of us here united in our democracy. So my name is Amy Casio, and I'm here to share a story about how the access to affordable healthcare saved my life. So about 2 years ago, I found a lump. And because I had access to affordable healthcare, I had a mammogram, an ultrasound, and a biopsy. And then I got that call, and I heard, it's cancer. Because I had access to affordable healthcare, I underwent surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, and now I'm going through hormonal therapy for another 8 years to help prevent reoccurrence. Because I had access to affordable healthcare, I am not facing medical bankruptcy. Because of affordable healthcare, I am here celebrating a year and a half of being cancer-free with my friends, my family, and my community. Now let's look at this story through a different lens. Let's look at this story if I didn't have access to affordable healthcare. I wouldn't have gotten a mammogram, an ultrasound, or a biopsy. Instead, I would have believed the first thing I heard, which was, it's just a cyst. You're healthy, you're 38, it's just a cyst. I'm a small business owner. I enjoy that freedom. Because of access to affordable healthcare, I am able to create, I'm able to innovate, I'm able to help our make our state better. There are tons of nonprofits, other entrepreneurs. We together are making our state better. We are not tied to employer-based healthcare. We should be so proud that Montana has ranked #1 in entrepreneurial activity for 4 years running. We need to keep that train going, and we need someone who stands up for all Montanans, who stands up for every single one of us. He understands, he cares. We need Rob Quist as our voice for Montana.
Hello, my name is Lori Swartz. I am a mother. I am a grandmother. I am a cancer survivor. I am a proud member of the SEIU 775. The Home Care Long-Term Care Workers Union. All politics are personal, but now more than ever before, the healthcare battle in Washington, D.C. is threatening my career and my life, my clients' lives, and my family's survival. Earlier this month, the congressional Republicans passed an irresponsible, dangerous healthcare bill in the House that would gut Medicaid funding $880 billion and repeal the Affordable Care Act without a plan to replace coverage. In Montana alone, 142,000 people would lose coverage. Premiums would increase thousands of dollars per person. But for me, the impact of this terrible healthcare bill are more important, more than these horrible numbers. My jobs and thousands of jobs like mine would be eliminated, and thousands of Montana's seniors and persons with disabilities will be unable to afford the care that they need to survive. I've worked as a caregiver for over 30 years. I have never seen my clients so afraid. One of my clients, who's in her 30s and is suffering from a traumatic brain injury, told me on Wednesday that she is so scared to lose her access to her medications that allows her to work a part-time job and to be able to live a normal life. Another client who is a diabetic and suffers from chronic pain, he also has sleep apnea. He fears his medication and his medical supplies will be too expensive. These wonderful people and many other clients are living in fear that they're going to die. I am afraid for their future and my career too. Worried that politicians in DC are mismanaging our public tax dollars and lining their pockets of the wealthy corporations instead of making sure everyone gets the care that they need. I feel like I'm in a big, ugly circle where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. I am fighting for my life, my career, my family, and for my clients and my union and in my community. But we need to elect leaders to fight for us too. Rob Quist and Bernie Sanders will fight for us. Rob understands what it means to go into debt because of health care. It's too expensive. He will fight to improve the system, not tear it apart because of people. And cause more people to suffer. Rob knows that workers deserve to make $15 an hour. Or a living wage, and will fight to raise minimum wage. Montana didn't have a voice in the recent healthcare debate. But when the bill comes back to the House of Representatives, we need to be sure our representative is fighting for us. Rob Quist is the only candidate who I know will fight for us. He will fight to make sure that the insurance companies cannot charge me more because I'm a cancer survivor. He will fight to make sure that my grandchildren's doctor's bills don't force my family into deeper poverty. He will fight for my clients' long-term care and affordable health care. We need a Montana fighter to go to DC to represent us, the working people of the Big Sky State. I know Rob Quist will be our champion.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shane Morjo, and I represent House District 95 right here in Missoula. And I'm happy to be here on this special day with everyone, and I'm glad a couple bears decided to join us in the crowd out there. Right around a year ago, I stood at a podium down at Karis Park to And sat down at the park to introduce Senator Bernie Sanders in his campaign for president. And if you'll indulge me just for a moment, I remember it was a pretty crazy day. I know I was exhausted. I had bags under my eyes, kind of like I do today. I was rehearsing into the early morning for my 2-minute speech. And then when I got there, I opened up with a joke that was apparently only funny to me and maybe my wife. She laughed at it when I was practicing anyways. And to be honest, I was nervous as hell, because early reports that day were showing that thousands more than anyone ever expected were going to show up to come out and feel the burn. And if you were there that day, you probably remember how that felt. How exciting it was to have a true progressive fighting for all of us and taking that to the White House. How empowering it was to hear from someone who believed in us, not just Wall Street and the millionaires. Well, I'm here to tell you, and those who may still disagree with us, it ain't over yet. So, we Montanans, we actually have been given a second chance to show the rest of the country that working people still matter. That healthcare for all still matters. That women's rights still matter. That equality for our LGBTQ community still matters. That the environment and access to public lands still matter. That higher education still matters. And that the rights of our indigenous peoples still matter. So in other words, we have a second chance to send a real Montanan to Washington. And this person, I know this person is going to go there and do what so many other politicians in DC won't do. The right thing. And that person, of course, is Rob Quist. Senator Sanders has made it clear that change happens from the bottom up by supporting progressive candidates for local and statewide offices, and even running for office yourself. Bernie's message, the same exact message Rob shares, is actually why I ran as a Montana legislator. It's why I ran to serve in leadership as a freshman legislator, and why I brought forth legislation for tuition-free college. And of course, our revolution depends on each and every one of us getting out the vote. Let's be clear, Rob's opponent is terrified of us showing up. Because when we do show up, we win. And that's why Republicans keep trying to make voting harder for us, and that's why they keep pouring millions and millions of dark money into Montana elections. So please text GO ROB to 30644 to volunteer. We need volunteers to get people out to vote. And right after this event, a bunch of us are going to go out to knock doors, and so we're asking you to come please join us. So folks, we have to win this race. We have to win this race. And we have to elect people who inspire us and who believe in us. And so with that, please help me welcome to the stage Rob's better half, Bonnie Quist.
If the love's still strong, ooh. thank you so much for coming. It just gives me such hope in America and in democracy to see you here and participating and supporting us. So thank you so much. We in America are at a crossroads. There's dark money permeating our elections. It's destroying candidates, it's destroying families, and we have to show up, and we have to show that people have the power to take this democracy back. And I think that were it not for Bernie, that Rob and I were both big Bernie supporters, and were it not for Bernie, we would not know that candidates can run their campaigns on small donations from people and do not have to take dark money. So I am here today as the child of an immigrant. My father and my mother were both Canadian immigrants. My dad homesteaded in Fairfield, Montana, and Rob's grandfather homesteaded in Cutbank, Montana. And my mom was a Republican, and my dad was an independent. And my dad really taught us to educate ourselves about the candidates, to read about the issues, decide what issues are important to us, read about each candidate and what they stand for. And he taught us to not be bogged down by the nasty partisanship of partisan politics. Read about your candidates, learn about your candidates, and find out which one is going to represent the values of your family. My father was a force to be reckoned with, and he wanted sons, but he was blessed with 3 strong daughters initially. So he taught us, my dad was probably one of my first great champions of women's rights, and he taught us that we cannot be denied an equal place in society as women if we work harder than anybody else and if we educate ourselves so that we compete intellectually. So he was a champion of women's rights. So Rob married into a very fiery German-Scottish family. And he immediately, my dad had undying respect for Rob. In fact, there was one day I was decided that I was going to tell Rob, talk over some problems with my dad. We were walking on the beach in California, and Dad looked at me and said, I want to tell you that I'm not going to listen to this, and I'm always going to be on Rob's side. So my father watched Rob, and what he admired mostly about Rob is Rob is a man that researches his decisions. He thinks carefully before making a decision. He reads everything that he can to support his decisions. There's no snap decisions. He's a researcher and a planner, and he thinks about what his decisions are. And Dad loved that about Rob. The second thing about Rob that came in very valuable for my fiery family is that Rob was the mediator. He immediately became the mediator of all of our family meetings. And Rob is one that always believes that everybody gets a voice. All information has to be gathered, and then you have to compromise. You have to find a compromise that everybody can live with. And I've seen him in this role on the Arts Council. I've seen him on roles in organizations and boards that he's been on. He's always the one that gets people to meet in the middle and keeps things in a civil level. And that's what we need in Congress. So my dad was still alive when he watched Rob's band kind of grow into national prominence. He watched them starting to have national tours and television performances. And he watched Rob develop the skills that all businessmen have to learn. He learned how to negotiate monetary deals. He learned how to market. He learned public speaking. And he learned how to live life on the road and life on the run. And that's another thing that Rob brings to this campaign. And Rob also picked a very unconventional career, because he decided that his passion and his love in life was music, and he really felt that there was a way that he could make a living doing something that he loved, and he learned it from the inside out and made a success of it. And now this is the same man that is once again picking an unconventional path as congressman in Washington, D.C. And make no mistake, we are at a crossroads in America. There is a decision right now that's the most important decision that we as a nation will ever make, and that's our health care coverage. There's only one candidate that is dedicated to keeping the ACA in place and building on it and working to a single-payer health system. This is a decision that's going to affect our generation, our children's generation, and their children's generation, and it's going to affect the financial health of each and every one of us. That's the most important thing on the table today. And so you today have the power, you too have the power, and that's what's so exciting about seeing all of you here, because you have the power to vote and to make your vote count. And now I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the candidate that has my vote, and he also just happens to be the father of my children and my husband, Rob Quist.
There's an ominous clouding down in the Lord of you can fight for your life and your home and your freedom, but throw it all away. Lord, this is in the season for me. It's time that we made our stand. People, if we're gonna save Virginia City, it's gonna take a 45 caliber man.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Missoula, Montana. It's so great to be here today. You know, I was just thinking just before I walked out on stage that the very first time that I ever laid eyes on Bonnie was right in this room. I was standing on the railing over there, and all of a sudden the cheerleaders came out from the University of Montana. She's going to hate me for telling this story. But all of a sudden I noticed this blonde from Hungry Horse, Montana, and I'll tell you what, from that moment to this, I've been head over heels in love with this woman, and you can see why, right? You can see why. You know, people ask me about, what is the greatest resource that we have in the big sky? And without hesitation, I always say, it is our strong, independent, smart Montana women. I know all of you men agree with me on this. There's no question about that. This has been such a great honoring thing for me. I'm so humbled by the support we're getting. You know, throughout this whole process, we have been to 49 counties here in the state of Montana. And we've been, of course, I hope to get to all 56, but this was such a compressed election cycle that we were not quite able to do that, but hopefully we will be in the near future. But, to me, everybody, this election is a fight for the soul of Montana. It truly is. Other states have lost what we still have here in Montana. You know, I've traveled all over the country with Mission Mountain Wood Band, and in other states, you have to travel for 100 miles to be able to recreate, to hunt, and to fish. And so we have to realize that what we have is special here, and we have to hang on to that with all of our might, all of our might. I was very honored that some of 40 of Montana's best riders have banded together to release a series of essays. Has anybody had a chance to pick up one of those? Yeah, you should check that out. These are some of our best riders, and I was so honored that they stood up, to stand up for me and to write about our beloved Big Sky Country. And people like Greg Gianforte, when they see our mountains and our rivers and our streams, they probably think, well, that would be good to own and fence in and develop. But real Montanans would say, this is our way of life. Hiking in the Missions, or hunting elk in the Cabinets, or fishing in the Big Hole or the Clark Fork. Chief Seattle said many years ago, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. There could be no greater truth in regard to this beautiful landscape. And the transfer and eventual sale of our public lands is nothing more than theft against our children and our grandchildren. And I promise you, I'll steadfastly defend it. I'll defend it. Can I share you a poem that I wrote about this Big Sky Country of ours? Montana. She's been called a lady when we sing her praise. And if you fail to see the logic, well then, let me count the ways. Her cirrus hair is red and gold at evening sunset's light. And I've always thought her mountains looked especially good in white. Her gown is luscious green when she attends the annual springtime ball. And she fancies orange and gold at harvest moon in the fall. Her wild and natural beauty, it will take away your breath. Oh, but just take her for granted. It could easily mean your death. She's slow to grant her favors to come lately newer faces. To longtime suitors, she reveals her hidden secret places. She lives in big time splendor. She's the heart of the Golden West, and all manner of wondrous creatures live and suckle at her breast. And yes, there will be those who come with schemes of ways to use her, to sell her body like a harlot, to cheapen and abuse her. If you've sworn your love for her, revere, respect her. If you're a man of honor, you must cherish and protect her. And should we fail in this task, we'll lose this living treasure. Should we prevail, this lady that we love will live forever. I promise you that I will be a strong and independent voice for the people of Montana. Special interests have been having far too much influence in Washington, D.C. for far too long. And now we see that this is leaking into the political landscape here in Montana. And I have to applaud Governor Bullock for committing to transparency in our election laws. To me, this office should not be the Millionaires Club. This is the U.S. House of Representatives. Can you imagine what would have happened if we would have had Gianforte as our governor now? You know, he spent $5 million of his own money to buy that election, and now, of course, he's trying to buy this one as well. This U.S. House seat should not be his consolation prize. You know, I think up until about a week and a half ago, the number one issue in this campaign was public lands, but that's changed. That's changed here in the last couple of weeks. It has become this incredibly poor health care bill. I call it the Un-American Health Care Act. You know, let's talk about this. First of all, it would raise premiums by over $300 per person. There would be an age tax for people between the ages of 50 and 64, paying 5 times as much as everybody else has to pay. Once again, it would bring back the whole concept of pre-existing conditions. Half of all Montanans have pre-existing conditions. Anybody else have a pre-existing condition here? Okay, there's my point right there. Obviously, you know, I've had health issues of my own. You know, we had health issues that we went through, but we persevered, we powered through, and we paid all of our bills every dime. But to me, in the greatest country on earth, people should not have to go bankrupt because they have a medical issue. That is just fundamentally wrong. And of course, you probably heard that the tape that the New York Times found about how he was thankful that they passed this health care bill. Thankful? I'm thinking 70,000 Montanans getting kicked off of health insurance, pre-existing conditions. I think he was thankful because he would get an $800,000 tax break with this new bill. That's why he was thankful. Well, you know, let's just talk about women's issues just for a moment. We all need to resist the assault on women's reproductive rights. These are more than women's issues. These are community issues and human issues and family issues. And I support access to birth control and to preventative screenings. I will oppose any efforts to defund Planned Parenthood. Politicians like Greg Gianforte have no business getting in the way of decisions that should be between a woman and her faith and her doctor. I support a woman's right to choose. You know, on the debate the other night, did anybody see the debate? It was pretty hilarious. You know, Gianforte was kind of ticking off all those, you know, they have no problem with, I mean, he has a big problem with credibility. He was kind of ticking off all the little things that well, let's just say the false statements about me. And he was saying, he's for sanctuary cities. He wants a national gun registry. He's in bed with Nancy Pelosi. Well, I think I would have remembered that. It's kind of like they wanted to make a romance novel out of Nancy now. Oh my. But, you know, the subject came up about Montana values, about someone was asking, you know, what are Montana values? And I guess if you have to ask that question, maybe you haven't been in the big sky long enough to know that. But let me just talk about that for a minute. You know, Montana is a land of untold beauty. But it can be a country that can be unforgiving for those who are not hardy and resourceful. And we could not be more diverse. We have our native tribes that have been here for countless generations. And we have immigrants from virtually every corner of the world, of which we are descendants. But with all of our diversity, we found our strength in our unity. We're neighbors to each other. We rely on each other. And when we have differences, we'll counsel together with respect to work out our differences. That's a Montana value. Something that's sadly lacking in the halls of Congress, wouldn't you say? But, to me, we know that life under the big sky, it has to work for everyone, or it doesn't work for anyone. We exclude no one, regardless of race or religion, gender, orientation, or ethnic origin. That's a Montana value. I had a chance to talk with some of my volunteer staff members. We have over 2,000 people around the state that are volunteering to kind of help us bring this election home. And so I asked them, I said, how's it looking out there on the ground? And they are all really excited. They say, we have a chance to make Montana election history. We have a really good chance of bringing this home and showing the world what a real grass movement looks like. But now comes the critical part. We've done all the groundwork, for the last few months, but now is the critical part. We have to get out the vote. And so I'm asking for your help. I'm asking you to knock on doors and to make phone calls. And if you want to volunteer, you can text GOROB, G-O-R-O-B, to get involved with this. It's going to take all of us to do this, and I'm asking for your vote and for your help to bring this home. I just want to take a moment to thank my incredible staff. I am so grateful and honored that I have one of the best campaign staffs that's ever been assembled here in the Big Sky country of Montana. These are people that are committed, they care, and they are working so hard to bring this home. And I think that we're about to make history in Montana. Would you please give my staff a big round of applause? People ask me, they say, why in the world would you ever want to give up on a career that you dearly love, and turn your back on a life as a performing artist? And I guess it all came down to a quote by Ernest Hemingway that our lives are measured by the magnitude of the challenges we accept. And I knew that there could be no greater challenge than this, but it's one that I had to accept. And I'm challenging you to get involved in this too. We have to make a difference in this country. We all have to stand up and make our voices heard. This is what we're going to have to do. But I won't be performing as much, although we do have a few Mission Mountain dates on the calendar this summer, so hope you can make it for one of those. But instead of doing 130 shows a year, it'll probably be more like 6. But, songwriters, we always will be writing songs and playing music. And would you like to hear my campaign song? Thank you. All right. This is so amazing to be here in the field house. We've had many shows over here over the course of my career. Of course, many basketball games. I think my freshman year when I played for the Grizz, we went 12-3 that year. I think we even beat the Bobcats here. So. And And I know people are hurting. This world can be so cruel. And ugly rumors raging around you make you feel just like a fool. But if you stand with me, then I will stand up for you. You are not alone, I want you to know this world wouldn't be the same without you. We can never be truly free until we lift all humanity. Don't ever let it get you down when trouble comes around. If you stand with me, then I will stand up for you. I'll be a strong shoulder to lean on when life seems cold and bare. In every way I will defend you. Count on me to be there. And if you stand with me, then I will stand up for you. You are not alone, I want you to know this world wouldn't be the same without you. We can never be truly free till we lift all humanity. Don't ever let it get you down when trouble comes around. If you stand with me, and I will stand up for you. Stand with me, and I will stand up for you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much, Missoula. It's been such a great honor here, and I just want to say that I can look out in the audience and I see that I've formed a personal connection with many of you. And to me, how you run this campaign is how you're going to run the office. We've been to all these different counties, meeting with people face to face. And and where's my opponent been? He's just been in his lair, if you will, on the East Gallup River, kind of lobbing these expensive attacks at me. But to me, that's how you're going to win this, is because you have to have a personal connection with the people of Montana. And in the course of my office, I will continue to do the same thing. You've seen those organizational charts where it puts, we're flipping that. The people of Montana will be at the top, and then my staff and I'll be at the bottom. I promise you, I'll be a servant of the people of Montana. And I know that we've sat together, many of us, and we shared our hopes and our concerns and our dreams for the future of Montana, this land, this life. And I know if we stand together, we cannot be denied. But today, more than ever, we must stand and make our voices heard and hold our leaders accountable. This should be an awakening. It's going to be my great honor to serve the people of the Big Sky, but now I have probably one of the greatest honors in my life to do for you. I'm going to introduce a man who has been an inspiration not only to me, but to all of you as well. This man has proven what it takes, to be a true man of the people here in Montana. And I know that that I share my love for this man. Quite frankly, I think if it were not for him, I probably would not be standing here today. It's my great honor to introduce to you one of the greatest senators in the history of our country, Mr. Bernie Sanders.
Thank you. Thank you, Montana. This is a remarkable turnout. Thank you all very much for being here today. And let me thank the Quist family band, Amy, Maury, Shane, Bonnie, and your next Congressman, Rob Quist. It really is an honor to be here in this extraordinarily beautiful state. A state that is very much like my own state of Vermont, except a little bit larger. We still have snow on the mountains. We still believe in community. We are a hard-working people, down-to-earth people, and honest people. And we believe what American society and politics is about is one person, one vote, not billionaires buying elections. Today, you have not only Bernie Sanders with you, I brought my daughter, Karina, who graduated from the University of Montana at Missoula. Now, it is a long plane trip from Washington to Missoula. And I came here because we face some enormous problems in this country. And I would not have come here if the times were not so serious. And I am not just talking, when I talk about serious problems, the special counsel to investigate the possibility of collusion between the Trump campaign in Russia. And I'm not just talking about the firing of the FBI director or allegations that the president may have shared with Russia classified information. Those are important issues. But what I am talking about today is the fact that the status quo in Washington before Donald Trump became president, the status quo is not working. We need real change. And it is clear to me that the only candidate running for Congress who will fight for real change is Rob Quist. The bottom line is that we cannot continue having a Congress which is funded by millionaires and billionaires and which every single day is doing the bidding of the wealthiest people in this country and the largest corporations. Rob understands that the middle class of this country has been in decline for 40 years, and we will not survive if we continue having a rigged economy in which the rich get richer and almost everybody else gets poorer. Rob understands, you understand, and the people of Vermont understand that it is economically and morally unacceptable that today the top 0.1% own almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. And while people in Montana and people in Vermont, people all over this country are working 2 or 3 jobs to put food on the table to take care of their families, 52% of all new income generated today goes to the top 1%. Rob understands that it is absurd that we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth, while at the same time, since the year 2000, we have seen a 10-fold increase in the number of billionaires. Rob understands that veterans, people who have put their lives on the line to defend our country, should not be sleeping out on the streets. While at the same time, major corporations making billions a year in profit stash their money in the Cayman Islands and don't pay a nickel in federal income tax. Now, Rob has the crazy idea, and I know this is a very radical idea, that maybe, just maybe, we should have a government that represents all of us and not just the 1%. And Rob also understands, and Bonnie and I were talking about it over breakfast this morning, that as a result of this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision, the very fabric of American democracy is being undermined as billionaires like the Koch brothers spend hundreds of millions of dollars. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars all over this country to elect candidates who will represent the wealthy and the powerful. And that is why I have so much respect for Rob, because he's turning his back on that way of raising money. He is doing it the old-fashioned way. And it's not easy. But here in Montana and all over the country, people are responding. His average contribution is $25. Over 95% of his campaign contributions are less than $200. This is a people's campaign. And when it comes to the important issues facing Montana and facing America, Rob also understands that something is profoundly wrong when the United States of America today is the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care as a right for all Americans. Rob understands, and this is a profound human issue. Rob understands, you understand, and I understand that health care is a right, not a privilege. And that is why after he is elected, Rob will be working with me to fight for a Medicare for all single-payer program. And I want you all to think for a moment what an America, what a Vermont, what a Montana means when people do not have to hesitate about going to the doctor because their deductibles or co-payments are too high. What an America looks like when you could go out and do the job you want rather than stay in a job you don't like just because you get good health care there. And Rob also understands that there is something profoundly wrong in America when we pay by far the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. What sense is it? How crazy is it that today 1 out of 5 Americans who go to the doctor and get a prescription cannot afford to fill that prescription because the prices that the drug companies charge are so outrageous. How crazy, obscene is it that in Montana and Vermont, you got senior citizens who are cutting their pills in half because they cannot afford the medicine they need. Rob will be one of the few in Congress to have the guts to take on the greed of the pharmaceutical. And Rob also knows that while we accelerate the fight for a Medicare for All program, we must do everything we can to kill that disastrous legislation passed in the House 2 weeks ago. That piece of legislation, that bill, is one of the ugliest, most dangerous, most anti-American bills ever passed in the Congress. Can you imagine, and I want you to think about it, can you imagine anyone supporting a bill that would throw 24 million Americans, including 70,000 people in this state, off of the health care that they currently have? How do you tell somebody who finally can go to a doctor that we're taking that away from you? How can you vote for over $800 billion cuts in Medicaid, which not only takes away health care from lower income people, it will deny middle class people the ability to send their parents to a nursing home when necessary, because Medicaid pays 60% of nursing home care in America. How can anyone vote for a piece of legislation, as Rob just mentioned, which significantly raises premiums for older workers? How can you vote for legislation which defunds Planned Parenthood and tells 2.5 million women that they no longer have the choice as to where they can get their health care? But this is what Rob also does. Media doesn't quite pick it up all of the time. But when you throw 24 million people off of health care, you're not talking about a health care legislation. This bill is nothing about health care. What this bill really is about is a huge tax break for the wealthiest people in this country. This bill, passed by the Republicans in the House, would provide $300 billion in tax breaks to the top 2% and hundreds of billions more for the drug companies and the insurance companies. What kind of moral compass could somebody possibly have to vote for a bill which gives tax breaks to people who don't need it and throws 24 million Americans off of health insurance? Rob Quist is going to bring a different moral compass to the United States Congress. And Rob also understands that in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, it is time to change our national priorities. President Trump said during his campaign that he was going to stand with the working class of this country. Turns out he wasn't quite telling the truth. And if you look at the proposals of the Trump administration in terms of their budget and in terms of their tax ideas, he is not standing with the working families. He is standing with the billionaire class. And I want to just give you one example of how horrific these ideas are and how dangerous they are. President Trump wants to repeal the estate tax. The estate tax would provide, the repeal of the estate tax would provide over $300 billion in tax breaks to the top 0.2%. Got that? 99.8% of the people would not get a nickel benefit. The Walton family, the wealthiest family in America, would get up to a $50 billion tax break. The Koch brothers family would get up to a $30 billion tax break. The Trump family would get up to a $4 billion tax break. Now get this, at the same time as they are talking about unbelievable tax breaks for the wealthiest people in this country, their budget says that we have got to cut Head Start, we've got to cut child care, we've got to cut Pell Grants, we've got to cut the WIC program. This is a program for low-income women and their babies, a nutrition program. The Trump budget would cut the Meals on Wheels program, which is a program in which low-income seniors get one nutritious meal a day. It is really hard to believe that we have people in Congress who think that it is acceptable for billionaires to get massive tax breaks, and then you cut programs that are desperately needed by children, by the elderly, by veterans, by the sick and poor. Rob Quist is going to Congress to change those priorities. Rob understands that one of the reasons that the middle class is shrinking is that wages in America are too low. We've got to raise the minimum wage to a living wage. And Rob understands that in the year 2017, it is not acceptable that women make 79 cents on the dollar compared to men. And Rob understands that it is hypocritical to the extreme that we have people in Washington, so-called conservatives, saying, get the government off of our backs. We don't want any government regulation. But these very same people are prepared to tell every woman in America what she can do with her body. Rob and I say no way. And as we speak here at the University of Montana, where Rob played basketball, I guess, and met his wife, as we speak here on campus, Rob also understands that we live in a competitive global economy, and if our nation is to succeed in the future, we need the best educated workforce in the world. And he will stand with me to make certain that every young person in Montana and America, regardless of his or her income, will get the education they want. And that we are also going to end the absurdity of millions of our people, including many. How many of you are dealing with student debt? Well, there you go. People in America should not be punished because they got the education they need. We're going to lower student debt. And when we talk about protecting the beauty of Montana and Vermont and our incredibly beautiful country, Rob understands that the president has it wrong. Climate change is not a hoax. It is real. And we have got to transform our energy system. Rob knows also that in America we have a criminal justice system which is broken. We have more people in jail than any other country on earth. And you know, and I know, and Rob knows that it makes a hell of a lot more sense to be investing in jobs and education for our young people rather than jails and incarceration. And Rob knows that what makes our country great is when we bring our people together. Black and white and Latino and Asian American and Native American. And we will not allow anybody for cheap political points to divide us up. We stand together. Here in Montana, I want to express my admiration and respect for the Native American people. These are a people who have been lied to, who have been cheated since the inception of this country, and it is time we did them right. Rob told me this morning, somebody who grew up with Native American kids, that he has been deeply influenced by Native American culture, as all of us should be. Because they have taught us that when we destroy our land and our water and our atmosphere, when we destroy the environment, we are destroying ourselves. That we have got to live in harmony with nature, not destroy nature. That must be the future of this country. Rob knows that now is the time to think big, not small. Now is the time to make sure that we have an economy that works for all of us, that we have a healthcare system that works for all of us, that we have a child care and education system that works for all of us. He knows that we can create millions of good-paying jobs by rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. Now, I don't want to get you all nervous, but the eyes of the country are on Montana this week. And what people are asking, can a rural state, small population, can people come together to take on the big money interests who are trying to buy this election? Because the people of America know that if you can do it in Montana, we can do it all across this country. That we can create a political revolution which restores power to working families and the middle class and not just the billionaire class. That's what this campaign is about. You know, when Rob began this campaign, people said, well, he's a nice guy, he's an interesting guy, a musician, a poet, a songwriter. Wow, that's cute, that's cool. But nobody thought he had a chance to win. But now, a week before the election, our Republican friends are getting nervous, and they should get nervous. So what our job is right now, and you guys can make a profound difference. Not only must you come out to vote, bring your friends with you. I think we got something like 4,000 people here. Each one of you bring 1 or 2 people. We get 8,000 more votes for Rob. That's not that hard. So thank you all very much. Thank you very much. And I say this from the bottom of my heart because these are difficult moments for America. And a lot of people are kind of giving up and they're throwing their hands up. And they are living in despair. But what you understand, now is not the time to give up. Now is the time to fight back. So thank you very much. We've got a lot of work to do in the next 4 or 5 days. Let's elect Rob Quist for Congress. Thank you.